There was a big uproar this week as Michael Flynn resigned from his post as National Security Advisor. The whole thing is fishy and weird and no one seems to know what is going on, except that Flynn gave what he called incomplete information to Vice President Pence regarding conversations he had with a Russian ambassador. Turns out the government was already spying on Flynn and had his phones wiretapped, and the Justice Department raised the red flags, fearing Flynn was in on collusion or worst, at least by their standards, was setting himself up to be blackmailed. Once this information was revealed, Flynn resigned so quickly that some of the National Security Council staff members found out from seeing it on the news. Democrats are up in a tizzy calling for a full FBI and Justice Department briefing because now everyone might be a Russian spy, and you know how scary the word Russia is now. Some people are going so far as to call this a political assassination and are rightfully wondering why the government is spying on its own officials and then just casually throwing that information all around the White House and to the press. Usually they keep this stuff pretty secret. The only people that seem to be nervous about this, though, are the Republicans, who fear these spying and leaks are part of an orchestrated attack against the conservative administration by former Obama officials. The running theory is intelligence bureaucrats who, remember, are not elected, orchestrated the whole thing as a political move. In short, it seems we have a case of the state fighting the state, which certainly is plausible, as both Flynn and Trump have been critical of the intelligence agencies. Flynn was supposedly working on reform, and we all know what happens when you mess with the CIA. Add to this that 3 other people affiliated with the Trump campaign are being investigated for ties with Russia, and no matter what side of the aisle you're on, things are not looking good. On the one hand, all of this is getting out in the open and the deep state is being forced out of secrecy. But on the other, and whether or not Trump is your BFF, the police state is rising up against itself and will likely only move towards harsher authoritarianism. It's one thing if things are leaked in order to raise public awareness and expose wrongdoing. It's another thing entirely when that information is leaked as a political weapon. Speaking of political weapons, remember that time that the Washington Post accused 200 websites of spreading Russian propaganda via fake news? Well, it turns out that the paper has little room to point fingers, as they've actually been receiving money from the Russian government for years in exchange for running actual Russian propaganda. Isn't that just swell? According to a 2007 piece printed in Slate, the Post has been accepting Russian money as early as the 1990s to run the occasional native advertising supplement called Russia Beyond the Headlines. And it's not just Slate that has pointed this out. The Daily Caller, The Guardian, The Atlantic, Brick's Business Magazine, and the Washington Free Beacon have all caught on. Not to mention the Post's own Eric Wemple admitted it during a Fox News interview with Tucker Carlson this week, but explained it away as simply not approved journalism. Wemple also previously attacked Politico for publishing native advertising, even though he says it's okay to print it in his own paper because he believes the Post's readers are clever enough to figure out its propaganda. You should YouTube it. It's pretty laughable. I mean, seriously, I lolled. According to the American Action Forum, as of this past Monday, Trump had already put a hold on $181 billion worth of new regulations, which makes the beginning of his presidency the largest regulatory rollback attempt since the Reagan era. According to the AAF, he withdrew 24 significant regulations in his first week and delayed the publication of another 250 more since. 22 of these new rules cost more than $100 million, and another 16 would have cost over $1 billion in the long term. Altogether, the hold will also save the government 5.5 million hours of paperwork. And remember, someone would have had to be paid to do all that paperwork. Obama finished out 2016 with a record 97,000 pages of regulations, which would make Trump's goal of cutting 75% of government regulations pretty easy work. 3 liberal groups have already joined forces in an attempt to sue Trump for his executive order requiring federal agencies to nix 2 regulations for every new one, claiming it will force the government to take actions that would, quote, harm the people of this nation, as if the government harming its people is something new. The Oroville Dam is still standing safe and sound, crisis averted. However, in another case of trust the government, it came out this week that the California Department of Water Resources knew about the damage to the dam and the potential danger of flooding back on February 7th. But lied to the public and said everything was A-OK until the 14th, when it announced on Facebook that a dam collapse was imminent in 60 minutes. There is supposedly no longer a threat of an emergency, but who the hell knows? Remember the timepiece from December about how Hillary supporters should refuse to pay taxes? The idea seems to have actually gained some steam. One, Andrew Newman, was profiled by The Guardian this week for refusing to pay federal taxes out of civil disobedience. Ironically, he is suggesting that everyone should stop paying federal taxes because of where the money's going, and instead use that extra money to donate to private charities or organizations of your choice, which is what libertarians have been saying for, I don't know, forever. But no, when we say it, it's crazy talk. What's interesting about this is Newman says he fears a redistribution of wealth to the rich. So stealing people's money and giving it to someone is wrong only if rich people get it. Gotcha. He also admits that people who don't pay taxes are likely to go to jail, which is effectively admitting that taxes are taken by force and under threat of violence. But again, I guess that's only a problem if you don't like the current administration. If you are in the habit of writing edgy, satirical, or dystopian fiction, turn back now. Despite 1984 hitting the #2 bestseller slot on Amazon, book publishers are taking a page from Fahrenheit 451 and are hiring what they call sensitivity readers to weed through books and decide what should get published and what shouldn't. For a nominal fee of $250, these sensitivity readers will go through a manuscript and flag anything deemed racist, sexist, or otherwise offensive. A book could even be flagged for having insensitive or supposedly inauthentic characters. Sensitivity readers advertise various so-called areas of expertise, including but not limited to dealing with terminal illness or chronic pain, racial dynamics in Muslim communities and families, and transgender issues. The process of a sensitivity reading is becoming standard within the publishing industry, especially if the publisher thinks the books may fall into the hands of young readers. Many writers are getting on the bandwagon and calling this an excellent idea, and have somehow missed the possibility that sensitivity writing could completely destroy creativity and fiction. In other PC news, the Southern Poverty Law Center is counting nasty conservative extremists again and mostly blames Trump. A Boston College professor published an essay saying the 2016 election was a racist country's attempt to, quote, save white heterosexual male privilege, and called white heterosexual male privilege a disease. 2 of the professor's PhD students also appeared on a college radio show to compare getting an abortion to getting a tattoo and to complain about a lack of gay presidents. A journalist and Intercept founder canceled his appearance on Bill Maher's Real Time because Milo Yiannopoulos was also scheduled as a guest. Lawrence University in Wisconsin will be hosting speaker Dr. Amy Breeze Harper, who wants to abolish the meat, dairy, egg, fur, leather, and poultry industries so she can teach students about white privilege and food justice. The Associated Students of Madison at the University of Wisconsin-Madison has demanded reparations for all black students, including former convicts, in the form of free tuition. Netflix announced their TV series version of the 2014 film Dear White People. The Huffington Post and other outlets called the resulting backlash proof of white privilege and racism in America. Cornell University considered a resolution to have a committee look into whether or not their campus lacks ideological diversity, citing the fact that 96% of the faculty's political donations go to left-leaning candidates and causes, but ultimately decided it was a bad idea because conservatives are not part of a historically oppressed group, and so putting any money towards the cause would only take away from promoting other kinds of diversity. Finally, 12 people working for the TSA were arrested this week after it was revealed that the agents were responsible for smuggling in 20 tons of cocaine from 1998 to 2016. The agents supposedly worked to get suitcases full of drugs through airport security, and transporters were given special security clearances to make sure the drugs reached their destination. If this doesn't make you question TSA pat-downs, I don't know what will. That concludes your Liberty-related news for the week. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all next week. Thanks for watching.